All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or in the rare case, good night. And I don't mean go to bed during this video. All right, so what we're looking at is all this week we've been doing solving equations. So obviously we want to get to those word problems, right? We have to be able to take word problems, write the equation, and then solve. Y'all have been working this past week on solving the equation. So today is just about more so writing them. We'll do a few that we solve, but for the most part, we're just going to be writing them. I want you to feel more comfortable about writing these equations. Okay? So it says, when writing word problems, we typically write it in y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope, right? That's the thing that's being added every single time. If I go bowling, right, the thing that's being added every single time is my shoe or my games. Every time I play a game, I have to add how much that game is. And then our b is our y-intercept. That's our starting value. That's our shoe rental. I don't have to pay for that every single game I bowl. That's just a one-time thing. So we're going to start with a little bit quirky one. And in this one, it actually says write an equation and solve it. Don't just write the equation. So it says a collection of CDs, 10 CDs, costs $120. What is the cost of each CD? So I have a starting value that's 0, right? It doesn't say 10 CDs and a bag of candy, or, I have to pay a flat fee for this CD. It's nothing. Okay? Then I have my 10 CDs, and then this is their cost. And when I multiply those two together, I actually get my total of $120. So remember, right? I can actually erase this 0 because plus 0 doesn't really need to be there. So if I go to solve that, I draw my barrier. There's nothing that I need to distribute. There's nothing that I need to combine. So I need to isolate my variable. Do the opposite. So that means get the C alone. So what's the inverse of multiplying 10 and C? We are going to divide by 10, right? Because C is what we want to get alone. When I do that, I get my final answer that each CD costs, if you have a calculator, hopefully you got this, $12. Okay? And I know that y'all don't really buy CDs anymore. It's not cool like it was when I was a kid, but you understand what I'm talking about. So now the next one, right? Another one that's a little bit off. Not as much as number 3, though. I love number 3. So a treasure chest was found 1,500 feet below sea level. Divers lifted the chest 6 feet above the surface. How far was the chest lifted? So this one's going to be a little funky, right? Our starting value is negative 1,500 feet below sea level. Because it's below, right, going back to the 5th and 6th grade when you start learning about integers, we're going to have a negative. Okay? When I added how much I went up, I ended up at 6 feet above sea level. So now it wants to know how far it was lifted, so we're actually going to solve this. I'm going to draw my barrier. There is nothing to distribute. There's nothing to combine, so I need to isolate. Get the x alone. The inverse of x, or minus 1,500, is going to be add 1,500. So this chest was lifted 1,506 feet from where it ended. And again, y'all might have known that just by looking at the problem. I get that you're smart and can do that, some of you, but we need to know what the equation is. That way, when it gets harder, we have those tools already. Okay? Now, this is like, one of my favorite ones because we're talking about Bert and Ernie. So Bert and Ernie, they're friends. They They gonna go play outside in their little pool, and they own 20 rubber duckies. So if Bert owns 8 rubber duckies, they want to know how many Ernie owns. But if you look, all it wants you to do is write an equation. So we don't want to do too much. So we can do this a few ways. We can say, if I add Ernie and Bert's ducks together, I get a total of 20. Well, I know that Bert owns 8, so I have Ernie's ducks plus Bert's 8 ducks is going to equal 20 ducks. And then again, if they wanted you to solve it, you could easily solve that. Okay? That one was easy. Let's go to a little bit more complicated one. Whew, we got this. So it says, just write the equation. Easy peasy. So it says 5 more than, what does more than mean? What operation is that? Plus twice. What does twice mean? 2 times. A number is, what does is mean? Equals negative 13. So let's do the easy part. Equals negative 13. Now I know that y'all are going to write 5 plus 2x equals negative 13. And I'm going to tell you that it's wrong. And we've talked about this before, but this is why I wanted to put this one in here. Remember, when you see these two words together, more than, or the other common one, less than, you need to switch these two. So this is actually 2x plus 5 equals negative 13. And that is going to be your final answer. Okay? We got this. Okay? We have just a few more. We're getting there. Don't you worry. So, number 5, Bubba's car needed some work. The mechanic charged him $160 for the parts plus $38 per hour for the labor. If the bill totaled $300, how many hours of labor were required? So we are going to start with the easy one. What is our flat rate, our starting value? $160. What's the one that's going to go next to X? 38. Remember, we like this per. This per is a really great typical thing for us to see to know what one goes next to X. And then that means our total, which already tells us that, is 300. Okay? So now the next one, we got a mama who's in quarantine and is tired of her children. Okay? So it says that Anaya had some candy to give to her 4 children. Can you imagine 4 children? God bless you all. She took 10 pieces for herself. You know, we call that mom tax in our house or dad tax. And then evenly divided the rest among her children. Each child received 2 pieces. How many pieces of candy did she start with? So this is one that y'all have seen before that we struggled a lot with. You can solve it, again, but that's not what they want. So we can kind of do this a few ways. The first way is we can say, well, she has 4 children. They are each given 2 pieces of candy, right? So this means multiply. Multiply those 2. Then add her 10 pieces, and that's our total. Okay? And it doesn't have to look like that at the beginning, but that's what you would end up at. Okay? You could have said she has 4 children times their pieces of candy plus 10 equals the total, right? You still ended up with, well, she gave each kid 2 pieces of candy. Okay? So now we're going to talk about Miss Floyd, who's going to the grocery store. She wants to try a new recipe that calls for zucchinis. She's apparently being healthy, a lot more healthy than I am right now. She bought 3 zucchinis, and then while she was there, she also got some other groceries that added $15 to her bill. Her final grocery bill was $21. how much was each zucchini? So what is our B? What is our flat rate? It's going to be 15, those extra groceries. Then what is our slope? What's the number going next to X? 3, because we got to know how much each zucchini costs. And then that means our total for the grocery store, which it tells us, was $21. I hope you're feeling a lot better about this, guys. All right, we just have 3 more. You got this. So at the football game, obviously this was a while ago, Andres threw 15 passes. He completed 10 of them for 120 yards. What was his average per completion? So if we're talking about per completion, does it matter that he threw 15? That actually has no bearing on this whatsoever. Okay? We call that extra information that they're giving you that isn't necessary. So he completed 10 passes for 120 yards. They want to know his average. So you can do this one of 2 ways. We can say that our 10 passes, right? 10 times the yards for each pass is 120 yards. I think that's going to be our best way. Okay? And actually, the next few are also the same sort of vision on this. All right, so then it says, Jessica is known to many as the official 8th grade school gossip. Yesterday, she sent 1,152 text messages. I hope her fingers hurt and she learned a lesson. How many text messages did she send on average per hour? Okay, so we're talking about yesterday. So let's start with how many hours are in a day? 24. Good. So we have 24 hours in a day. So 24 times however many she does per hour is going to equal that total. And that's it. Okay? I want you to take exactly what we did on 8 and 9. And we're going to answer 10 as our very last question. Good luck.